So we will start with our centering meditation. Please place your hands on your lap and with a very upright posture, close your eyes and just start to drop down into this moment. And just welcome into your awareness whatever is happening for you right now in your body, in your mind, in your attention. And the power of this centering practice is really in just allowing yourself to be in whatever state you're in right now. Because only by allowing that can we then start to shift it. So please take a moment to notice the pacing of your breath. And noticing where in your body you feel the breath move the most. Is it low in the belly? Is it in the ribs? Or do you feel it quite high? Are there other parts of the body that you observe move when you breathe, besides the rib cage and the belly? This is our gentle reminder to hit pause on the day. And everything that has happened, not just in the day, but maybe in the week leading up to this moment. We put that down on the table and say, we'll come back to that later. But right now, our commitment is to ourselves, to strengthening our practice of breath and meditation so that we can unleash our full potential as athletes and as human beings. This is our space. And now we start to augment the breath. If it is not already doing so, please allow the lungs to inflate to their full capacity by expanding the belly forward with each inhale, and then contracting the belly back towards the spine with each exhale. Now that we're encouraging the breath to go deeper into the thoracic cavity, it may be easier to change the pacing and the rhythm of the breath. Inhaling and exhaling through your nostrils. Simply notice which of the inhale or exhale is the longer breath or the longer part of the breath. And then guide the counterpart to match that same pacing. So a ratio of 1-to-1, no holds for now. good. And just a few more cycles of breath. Now that we have this even pacing 1-to-1 ratio, we lengthen the breath by 2 counts, both the inhale and the exhale. And with the next exhale, dropping your shoulders away from your ears, creating length in the neck. Very good. And now drawing your palms together, rubbing them to make them warm. And placing your warm palms over your closed eyes for 3 deep, audible sighs. Inhaling together and exhale. Again, inhaling and letting that go. And last time. Really good. Taking your hands away from your eyes to come back into this space to begin our session. So the practice of 3-part yogic breath, I likened last week to the idea of filling up a jug. So you fill a jug with water, the water pours in, it fills from the bottom to the top. And then as you pour it out, it kind of leaves from the top to the bottom. And so too the breath. We think of the thoracic cavity is like the jug, and we fill it from the bottom to the top. And then when we empty from the top down. Takes a little bit of practice, but with practice, this will start to feel like a wave moving through the body. Now, the last part of the 3-part yogic breath is this tiny lift of the collarbones and the clavicle. This is just the very, very top of the breath, and it's not forced. It's the product of the rib cage lifting all the way up that it lifts the sternum, and with that, the clavicles. It's not that we're breathing here like this. That's different. That's a shallow breath where everything is tight and it forces the top of the whole shoulder girdle to lift, sort of to make room at the top part of the lungs to get as much air as possible, because probably the lower abdomen is too tight for the diaphragm to be working properly. So your body compensates by lifting everything here quite forcefully. You may notice this if you're anxious, if you're having a bit of a panic attack, or even if you just have a moment of being startled and you breathe very much from here. So when I am going to be instructing you in the concept of lifting the clavicle, it's not so much that we're doing it forcefully, it's more that we are expanding the lungs to their full capacity, and with that, the rib cage expands outward and upward, and that creates this last little lift. But before we can really do this effectively, we need to make sure that we restore as much as possible our optimal posture. And so to do that, we're going to do a bit of stretching for the neck, the upper back, and maybe the side body. And again, this is your personal practice, so please modify as needed to suit yourself. But first, with the neck, we're going to take a hand to the opposite side of your head and reaching the opposite hand away from the side of the neck that's stretching. We gently guide the ear towards the shoulder. Now, if you want to go deeper into this, externally rotate that opposite upper arm and press your fingertips down towards the floor. And if you're seated on the floor like I am, you can press your fingers right down into the floor, maybe into the side of a chair that you're sitting on. And then we'll release, we'll come up to center. And this time what we're going to do is roll the shoulders up and back just a couple times before we go to the other side. So exact same thing, opposite side, ear to shoulder. We extend the fingertips away from us. And if you want to go deeper, you externally rotate your upper arm bone. And as you do that, you're just creating more of a stretch here as well as here. Now, when you do this, if you feel ever any sharpness, any stretch that feels like it's too much, please come out of it and go in more gently. Especially for type A hard charging athletes that are used to a lifestyle where you're pushing yourself. It can be really tempting when you learn yoga to crane into the postures. But really, the brilliance of this practice is its depth and its highest impact, coming back to center and rolling the shoulders, comes from being gentle and slow. Because that's when we can create this interconnection, this alignment between thought and body. So now we're going to do the diagonal. We turn the nose in line with the knee, and we take the hand to the back of the head, drawing the chin towards the chest. The opposite arm is going to externally rotate, and the fingers are going to go diagonally behind you. So in the opposite direction that your elbow is pointing. And that will take the stretch into the diagonal back side of the neck. So to be able to get also a really therapeutic stretch, we need to isolate the rest of the torso. So it's important that our posture is aligned from our seat, our base, all the way up to the base of the neck. And then again, coming to center. This time we roll the shoulders from back to front. Good. And then nose in line with knee. Opposite side, externally rotate your arm. That's going to be reaching diagonally behind you as you draw your chin towards your chest. Long spine to your capacity. And whatever range of motion you have, we celebrate that. When you practice for a long time, your body will adjust, and very likely your range of motion and joints will increase. And so it can be really wonderful to observe every time what has changed in your body since the last time you did this. It sort of gives you a map of your progress. And coming back to center. And one more time, we'll roll the shoulders. It's releasing any tension there. We're going to stretch the front side of the neck. And to do this, we're going to also have we're going to be using our fingers to find a particular muscle. Now we're going to do this gingerly because we don't want to be poking around in the muscles of the neck with pressure. But the muscles that we're aiming for are called the scalenes. And they come down the side of the neck. And they will feel like really thin bands of muscle, like tight, thin bands that will come underneath your collarbone. So we kind of create a little bit of a pressure point against the scalenes as we draw our shoulder down towards our fingertips. So it's really just to give us a reference point. And then we're going to take our head up and diagonally back. And you should feel those muscles get taut. So you're going to be stretching them. Now, again, as you do this, if there's discomfort, if there's pain, that's a sign that it's just not the right stretch for you, the right degree of stretch. Please come out of the pose and just rest. We'll come to center. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So we're aiming for the scalenes and where they meet the collarbone. We take our chin towards our fingertips and then we move the head diagonally backwards until we feel those muscles tighten. Excellent. Coming back to center. And then just really gently drawing a half circle with your head. And this nice and slowly. And as we come back to neutral, we're going to take the right hand and we're wrapping the index finger and thumb of the left hand around. We reach up, take a deep inhale, and as you exhale, tilt laterally so that you feel a stretch maybe right from the armpit all the way down to your hip bone, stretching all the muscles of the side body. And stretching some of the intercostal muscles, the muscles in between the individual ribs. And inhaling up. And we change the interlacing to laterally tilt the opposite way. Now, my students often ask, okay, I'm creaking, I'm cracking, is that okay? And the answer is, if you're creaking and popping, as long as it's not accompanied by pain, or just a sense like, ooh, that didn't feel good, as long as that's not happening, it's probably just normal popping and cracking that happens in the joints. Inhaling up through center. And then the last thing is going to be, we're going to move the spine through its full range of flexion and extension while seated. And this is to your capacity and to your comfort level. The idea will be, sorry, I realize I need to move this because I'm too close. There we go. So the idea will be that with your hands on your knees, if you're seated or whatever position you're in, we're going to curve the spine, casting our gaze upward on the inhale. And as we exhale, we draw the belly button in towards the spine. And we kind of bow the body. We hollow out the belly. So our inhale is extension. And exhale, flexion. Please move through this range in your own time. Oh, excuse me. That's me stretching the muscles in the rib cage in a way that they haven't done for a few days. And then coming back to neutral. Now here's an optional kind of a black diamond version of this, is you can start to draw a circle with your rib cage. Or maybe even just your head individually. So it's a coordination of muscles that normally don't work together in this way. And then changing the direction of the circles. Beauty. Okay, and then we're all stretched out and ready to get into our breath practice. So the last part of the 3-part yogic breath, again, is a result. The lifting of the clavicle is a result of everything else being fully expanded. So with a really upright posture, what you'll notice is that with the inhale, first thing that happens is the belly inflates, and then the rib cage moves outwards and upwards, and then that last little bit you maybe notice is the clavicle lifts. When I exhale, the clavicle drops, the ribs pull in, the belly draws. So I'm going to stop talking so I can just demo that a couple times. So I empty my lungs. Okay, so you've got the idea. We'll try this together. So for a point of reference, we will, on the inhale into the belly, we'll have a hand on the belly, and then we'll have a hand on the rib cage. And as soon as you start to feel the rib cage inflate laterally, then you'll put that other hand on your sternum to just notice that gentle last little lift of the breath. So we'll start together, emptying the lungs to inhale. I'll pause there. I think I may have had a ding from somebody who's trying to get into the call. Nope, sorry, that's George. About training tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to tweak this a little bit just for the optimal setup for success. Putting a hand here can be a little bit more difficult to feel. Putting your hand here on the breastbone, on the sternum, that's a little bit easier to feel the lift from. So I'm going to change it to putting your fingers here after the rib cage inflates. Just for a more clear indicator. So again, we'll do that a few more times. Hand on belly, hand on ribs. All together, we empty the lungs to inhale. And if you've really got the hang of it, you can just put your hands back on your knees to practice for just a minute or so. Just a few more cycles of breath. And then returning to your normal breath and opening your eyes, just giving the head a bit of a shake coming out of that practice. So, again, the reason, the why of this is to improve ventilation efficiency so that we get more oxygen into the body and into the cells. And also because the breath, when we have control over it, when we're able to tell the body how to breathe and the body responds, that's increasing our capacity to influence the ratio of the breath. And as we've talked about before, we can augment the ratio of the breath in order to either activate sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, or parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest. And that's really the um, that is the lightning in the bottle for an athlete to be able to toggle those two states. So that in mind, the next breath practice for tonight is going to be box breathing. Now we've done a little bit of breath hold at the top and at the bottom. Um, Tonight, what we're going to do is an equal ratio. So, whatever your count is, let's say your count of breath is 4. You inhale for 4, you exhale for 4. We're going to add a hold of 4 at the top of the inhale and a hold of 4 at the bottom of the exhale. Now, this is one where you might find it becomes uncomfortable at some point. And if that does happen, again, I just recommend that you stop, pause, regroup, and try again. You may notice that in particular, when you're holding your breath at the bottom of the exhale, you'll feel your nervous system kind of fire up. A little bit of fight or flight will kick in. That is to be expected. That's okay. What you may notice is that you get this little kick of fight or flight, and then in the same breath as you get to the top of the inhale and you hold, and then you're on the exhale, you're on the way down, you may feel also that rest and digest, that settling. So it'll be maybe like a wave. You'll feel your nervous system activate and fire up and fire down, we shall say. So we'll come back into our posture, hands on lap, closing your eyes. And then just figuring out whatever your count for your breath is tonight. And that would be the comfortable maximum length inhale and exhale. And once you have that dialed, adding in the holding of the breath, starting now. And just a couple more cycles. And then releasing, just coming back into your normal breath, opening your eyes. So now we're going to switch gears slightly. We're going to get into the meditation practice. So we started with meditating on sensations arising in the body, then on to thoughts, and now on to judgments. Now that sequence is very deliberate because often when you start to meditate, you will notice that this tends to be the run of events, that something in your body will first be noticed consciously as a sensation, and then a thought about that sensation will pop into mind, and then almost immediately a judgment follows the thought of. So an example could be you noticed an itch in your foot and you think, oh, my foot is itchy. Oh, but I'm meditating. I don't think I want to scratch it right now. Should I scratch it? Should I not? And then you get into these layers of thought and judgment. So the problem with judgment is the minute we notice it, we tend to judge ourselves for judging. And then this becomes a weird spiral where all of a sudden you're judging yourself for judging, you're judging yourself for judging yourself for judging yourself. It gets really weird. So we have to start first learning how to release whatever thought, sensation, or judgment comes into mind. And then when the judgment comes up, we can just notice it almost as if we are a third-party observer and then let it go. Now, the reason that it can be helpful to be able to consciously redirect your attention out of this sequence of events and observe it as if you're a third party is really, that is the essence of what creates the gap. Sensation is, it's your body's sensors telling you things about stimulus coming at you from the outside world. And then this sequence of sensation through thought, through judgment is what turns into action. And so if we get really good at noticing, first of all, these three parts of the sequence in between stimulus and response, that's where we can start to widen the gap and insert a little bit of discipline and control over what comes next. And so we're going to do just a couple rounds of this meditation observing judgment, but we're going to warm up with the practice of letting go. So I'm not going to use that song from Frozen, Let It Go, because that's going to create its own thought process. What I am going to do instead is I'm going to deliberately guide you to pay attention to a visualization, and then we're just going to let the visualization go. So please close your eyes and just start to focus on your body. So allowing yourself to feel really aligned and upright from your base of support all the way to the top of your head. And not trying to do or control anything. And I'm going to guide you through 3 visualizations. And the first one is, I'd like you to please remember the last time you were sitting in warm sunlight. Your last memory of sitting in warm sunlight. And remembering in as much detail as possible where you were seated, what the sensation of the sun on your skin felt like. And any other sensations that were happening, maybe a breeze, any thoughts you were having at that time. And the scene in front of you, what you were looking at, what you were hearing, what you were feeling. And now let go of that scene. I'd like you to remember the last time that you were completely exhilarated, like roller coaster drop exhilaration, full of adrenaline, breathing fast, feeling your entire body kind of elevated into this peak state of arousal where all of your senses are dialed up to 10 and you're part excited, part terrified, part don't know what's coming next. Please recreate in your mind in as much detail as possible that experience. Remembering the setting, who you were with, what was going on. Remembering the sounds. The smells. The feels. And then watching that scene play forward through time, what came next? And then what came next? And so it's not a freeze frame. You're actually kind of playing through the movie of this memory. And we're not going to play it out to the end because, again, we're going to let that go. And right away, what I'd like you to remember is the last time you were immersed in water. Your last memory of being buoyant, immersed in water. And again, recreating in your mind the scene. And remembering the details. And again, it's not a freeze frame. Of playing this memory forward through time. And then we let that go too. And keeping your eyes closed, please bring your awareness back into your body now in this moment where you're seated, how you're breathing, the room that you're in, the sound of my voice, and any other sounds in the room around you, or perhaps outside of your room or outside of your house. And opening your eyes to bring your full attention back into this moment. So the idea with that practice is that we get good at noticing a projection of the mind, a memory in this case, and then letting it go. Another one takes its place right away, and then we let it go. We pay full attention to it. We don't try and turn it off or turn away from whatever that thought, memory, projection in the mind that's happening. But we get really good at observing it and then letting it go so that the next thought can enter your awareness. But with that in mind, we're going to get into this observation of judgment. And then the idea is that in just the same precise way that you were able to create this scene in your mind and then let it go to allow another scene to come into mind, And when you just start to watch your stream of consciousness, your normal thought process, when you allow everything to be kind of quiet, that you will allow things into your awareness and then just let them go. And what you may notice is kind of like flipping the channels on a TV. There'll just be constant stream of different thoughts, sensations, judgments kind of going through this stream of consciousness. Okay, so if you feel ready, maybe taking a moment actually to reset, because this is the last one. We're just going to do it for a little while. So closing your eyes. And without guidance, I'm just going to create this quiet space for 2 minutes for you to observe the stream of consciousness all the way through. And then we're going to wind this down. Again, paying attention to what's happening in this moment, what's going on in your room as you open your eyes. Thank you guys so much for sharing the practice with me tonight.